Welcome to this program for the students of science and technology at the secondary level. Today, we are going to study life process 3, that is, we are going to learn about reproduction in living organisms. You are well aware that organisms including humans produce their own kinds, thus they all reproduce. It ensures continuance of their variety on this planet Earth, thus species continue from one generation to the next. Reproduction is a characteristic of all living beings like any other life process such as respiration, circulation and nutrition. For example, two slides are on your screen. One is depicting reproduction in animals through the life cycle of butterflies, and the other is depicting life cycle and reproduction in plants through the life cycle of apple plant. We now go to the list of objectives that are there in this particular lesson. After completing this lesson, you will be able to state the asexual and sexual reproduction as two different modes of reproduction, identify the different types of asexual reproduction in organisms, identify the sex organs and describe each part and their process, identify the changes in human body upon reaching puberty and emphasize importance of reproductive health and hygiene, identify the organs of reproduction in humans and relate the organs with their function, mention the reproductive events leading to pregnancy and parturition, express awareness of increase in population growth in the country and suggest methods of population control, understand modes of transmission and prevention of sexually transmitted diseases and HIV/AIDS, and utilize this information in making safe, informed choices. Friends, let us begin. Reproduction usually takes place either by asexual method or by sexual method. In asexual reproduction, a single parent may produce offsprings and it does not involve fusion of gametes or special male and female reproductive cells. It takes place in many ways in lower organisms like bacteria, protozoa and some algae. In higher plants, it is said to be vegetative propagation. On the other hand, when two individuals are involved, male and female, it is sexual reproduction. Here, fusion of male and female gametes give rise to a zygote, which makes the beginning of a new life. This is a more common method of reproduction in plants and animals. Types of asexual reproduction in lower organisms include a number of ways. Binary fission is first. Look at the diagram on your screen. It depicts the binary fission in amoeba. Amoeba is a unicellular organism. It elongates along with its nucleus divides into two, and finally the cell divides into two and the parent cell loses its identity. Next is by budding. Budding in yeast, which is again a unicellular organism, takes place by a projection formed at any one of the ends of the cell and followed by elongation of the nucleus, which is pinched off. One part of it goes into the bud and the other part remains in the parent cell. Here the parent cell continues to exist. In multicellular organism like Hydra, a projection from any part of the body may be formed as you follow the number of numerical numbers mentioned on your screen diagram. The bud increases in size, develops the parts of the organism, and when fully formed, it detaches from the parent plant. Our next example of asexual reproduction is by spore formation. In spore formation, the spores are usually unicellular units of reproduction. The parent cell divides into 4, 8 or many unicellular components, which upon release from the parent body grow into an independent organism. There is only mitotic division involved. So, each new daughter cell will be genetically similar to the parent cell. Besides Chlamydomonas, spore formation is also common among mosses, fungi, etc. The moss spore capsules are shown on the left side of the screen and the right side shows the spore formation in the fern leaves. Asexual reproduction in plants are also known as vegetative propagation, as the vegetative parts of the plant such as root, stem and leaves are participating in reproduction. Friends, you must be remembering root, stem and leaves are the vegetative parts. They absorb the nutrients, they photosynthesize, grow and help in the development of the plant. So, when these plants take part in reproduction, we call it as vegetative mode of propagation. Root examples are shown by dahlia plants and by sweet potato. Stem vegetative propagation is shown by onion. You are all familiar with the new onion buds that sprout at the time of rainy season. Same with potato and ginger. Examples of leaves participating in reproduction are shown by bryophyllum and kalunchoi. The diagrams are clearly showing marginal buds at the tips of the leaves or at the margin of the bryophyllum leaves, when in contact with the soil, grow into new plants. These cues, these natural methods have been used by the farmers and nursery growers to multiply a desired plant using these methods, and we call it as artificial propagation. It is a rapid and less expensive method, and yet the new plants retain all the properties of the parent cell. They are thus an easier way and getting the similar type of plants at a faster rate. Examples here on your screen are that of cutting and layering. In cutting, you please follow the number given at the node in diagram A, B, C and D, and observe that a stem cutting, we call it as a scion, is taken. This is an example of a sugarcane plant. You sow the scion up to node number 6 under soil, and in the C diagram observe the roots are coming out, and at the top the node number 7 is showing you new sprouts formed, whereas D diagram is showing where sprout has failed. In layering, the name itself tells you a lower branch is lowered, covered with mud or soil till such a time that roots germinate, and then we sever the plant from the branch from the main plant, and it becomes a new independent plant. This very method is modified in air layering, or we call it as guti. In guti, where the branch is not bendable, it is stiff grown tree branch, then the bark of the tree branch is removed, covered with moss plant, and is kept moist with the help of an overhanging pot of water which is connected to the moss covered portion through a rope or any connection. When the roots strike, this particular branch is severed from the plant body and sown as a new plant. Lastly, graft union. Here, friends, we take a desired plant that we want to grow as the scion. There the scions and the lower portions are removed, and we take a stalk which is sturdy, strong, and its apical portions are removed. The wedge shaped sections of the stalk and the scion are joined, covered with polythene, and in no time new plantlets sprout, and we get new plants of the variety we desire. Other methods of asexual reproductive propagation are where we are exploiting the natural ability of the plant cells to grow new organisms. Every living cell has the potentiality to grow and give rise to new organisms of its own type, that is, they are totipotent, totally potential to give rise to another organism. Exploiting this natural property, scientists have successfully raised large number of offspring from a single cell or a small part of the plant. This is micropropagation or tissue culture. This method of growing small cells or tissues into a new organism have been mastered. Here is an example where a portion of the carrot plant, we call it as an X plant, is taken out. First, it is put in a nutrient medium which will allow the cellular division and give rise to an unorganized mass of cells. They are just organized mass of cells not looking like carrot. When we put growth regulators to this callus, it forms first the embryo like structures, we call them as embryoids, then it forms the embryos, and when put in right environmental condition in the field, they grow into fully developed plants. Friends, it is not restricted to the plants only. Even in animals, it has been experimented. You are all familiar with the sheep dolly, I am sure. How was sheep developed? It was actually the nucleus of one particular ewe variety transferred into the enucleated ovum of another ewe variety, and dolly was formed. So, dolly received nucleus from one variety of mother, and the egg cell without the nucleus or the enucleated egg and the womb of its surrogate mother, but developed the characters of the mother source which gave the nucleus to it. Friends, cells are totipotent. Can you explain why? All cells arise from a single zygote, that is, they are like gamete copies, clones of their parent cell, the zygote. Next, we move on to the sexual reproduction in plants. Fusion of male and female gametes is an essential requirement of sexual reproduction. Flower is the reproductive part. Look at the flower structure at this point. I will show you the flowers. This is a gulmohar plant, flower, and it is a bisexual flower. And these are the following parts. I will take them out one by one. This is the outermost calyx. Then comes these are the calyx parts. Then are the petals or the corolla part. There are 5 of them. These 2 portions are called the non-essential parts of a flower because they do not participate directly into reproductive process, but they are necessary for protection and for pollination. Next comes the male reproductive whorl. They consist of these androeciums. There are 10 of them. I will take out one for you and show the parts. This is the filament and this is the anther, and this forms one stamen. There are 10 of them, together they form the androecium. Lastly, and the innermost whorl is the gynoecium. Let me take out these stamens. There are 10 of them, as I just mentioned. This is the gynoecium held on the thalamus part, and if you look at the parts, it shows 3 parts: the stigma where the pollen falls, the style through which the pollen tube will grow up to this ovary, the swollen part of the flower called the ovary. Within the ovary are the ovules, which are the female gametes which upon fertilization grow into seeds. Aren't you familiar with the pea seeds in the pea pods? Every one of us love pea, isn't it so? Both the reproductive organs, that is the stamen and pistil, are present in the same flower. We call them as bisexual flower, but some plants bear either male flowers or female flowers separately. So, we call them as unisexual flowers. So, you have a androecium bearing flower as the male and the gynoecium bearing flower as the female. This one example is shown on your screen, that is from the pumpkin, but there are unending examples. Can you try and find them out for your interest? How do pollen grains reach the stigma of the female flower? For fusion of their nuclei and form the zygote, pollen and ovules are brought together by various agents like wind, water, insects and animals. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. Here you can see 3 agents of pollination on your screen. One is the bird. Sunbirds are famous for helping in pollination. So are the honeybees. And thirdly, maybe not many of you are familiar, is water acting as a pollinating agent in aquatic plants. Here is the Vallisneria. It is an aquatic plant which releases its pollen in water, and these float up to the female flower to grow into a zygote. There are 2 types of pollinations in the world. Transfer of pollen to the stigma of the same flower to fertilize the ovule is called self-pollination, whereas transfer of the pollen from one flower to the stigma of another flower of a different plant of the same species to fertilize the ovule is called cross pollination. So, the pollen from one flower to another flower of another plant is termed as cross pollination. Once the pollen grain falls on the stigma of a flower of the same species, they form pollen tubes. The pollen tube pushing through the stigma, reaching the ovule, carrying the male gametes called the sperms. Observe diagram 1. The pollen tube is growing through the style. In diagram 2, the ovule structure is shown. Within the ovule, you have the polar nuclei and the egg cell marked. The two sperms are shown entering the ovule. In the third diagram, the results of fertilization are marked. The zygote, diploid zygote is formed, and there is another triploid structure formed called the endosperm. Once the fertilization has occurred, the seeds are formed from the fertilized ovule, and when they mature and fall onto a right environment, they germinate into a new plant. Here two examples are depicted on your screen. One is those of say bean type of seeds, which their cotyledons emerge above the ground and form the first leaves of the plant. We call it as epigeal germination. Epigeal means above the ground. On the right is the maize germination. Here the cotyledons are seen under the soil, and only the vegetative, that is a coleoptile part, the shoot part emerges above the soil, and thus this germination we call as the hypogeal germination. Sexual reproduction in animals. Mostly animals reproduce by sexual mode. Asexual reproduction occurs only in simple animals like hydra and sponges, but they also reproduce by sexual methods. Eggs produced by female and sperms produced by the males form the zygote. Zygote develops into an embryo and the embryo into an individual. The development may or may not be completed within the egg. Oviparous are the animals that lay eggs and include fish, frog, reptile, birds, insects, etc. On the other hand, viviparous, the body develops within the mother's womb, as in mammals, including humans. This is the diagram which shows the examples of oviparous and viviparous animals in the two segments. Tapeworms and earthworms both have male and female organs in the same individual. Thus, we term them as hermaphrodite organisms, but such examples are not very common in the living world. In all other animals, sexes are separate, so you have a male and a female in the population for achieving reproduction. Here is a diagram depicting various phases of life in humans. You start your life as a baby, you grow up as a small kid, and then you become teenager, and then you reach adulthood, and you are capable of reproducing, and the cycle is repeated. Adults with time grow into matured old people. Which stage of this span of life are you in? You can try and identify yourselves. This development from childhood to reproductively matured stage is a slow and long one. When do humans attain reproductive maturity? We will answer these questions gradually. The period of infancy to reproductive maturity, including childhood, is a long one. Adolescence is the period after childhood from the age of say 10 to 11 years to about 19 to 20 years. During this period or phase, the person attains tremendous amounts of changes, not only physical but also psychological and social, that prepares them for adulthood. The phase is marked by puberty, during which child sexual and physical characters mature. It is biological process and initiated by certain hormones from pituitary gland, which is present in our brain, and cause sexual organs to mature and secrete testosterone in male and estrogen in female. These sex hormones in turn trigger the changes during adolescence. For details, I would request you to refer to lesson number 23, where the role of these hormones are explained in detail. Although these changes occur in all adolescents, the timing and the pace of changes may differ from person to person, thus each of us is unique. Given below is a list of changes that are characteristics of puberty and adolescence phases. Many of you who are in this age group would identify with these changes in your body, therefore, I will go through them very quickly. Here are the list of the physical changes. On the left are the changes that are seen in a growing adolescent boy, right is the changes that are seen in the growing adolescent girls. There are 5 types of changes we have listed: growth in size, that is, they gain in height, they develop hair, facial hair in boys. Then the muscular and the bone structures grow in both boys and girls, but more muscles in boys and more fat in girls. Then there are secondary sexual characters which appear. Friends, you are all familiar, so I will not take your time. Increase in height is an most perceptible change during adolescence. It is dependent on the genetic makeup, nutritional status and physical activity one indulges in. Adequate nutrition is necessary for proper growth. Adolescents need a balanced diet of food which includes energy giving, growth material like proteins, immunity developing items like vitamins and minerals. Depending on whether you are vegetarian or non-vegetarian, choose appropriate food items. It is normal for adolescents to feel sexual excitement. When a boy becomes sexually excited in dream, he may experience an erection and ejaculate in his dream. This is known as wet dream and it is normal. Breast development is one of the first signs of puberty in girls. Variation in size and shape of breast is normal and depends on amount of fat stored in them. We move on to the physiological changes. Increased amount of sweat and oil is observed because these glands become active. Overactivity of the glands may cause growth of acne and pimples on the face. However, these usually go away once the hormonal changes stabilize. However, steps like washing your face with soap and water frequently, including lots of fruit and water in your diet, can reduce these problems. Increase in the appetite is normal during this phase. Increase in the level of growth hormone and sex hormones in the blood is also observed. Increase in growth hormone secreted by anterior pituitary controls your growth rate, and under the influence of hormones from anterior pituitary, sex organs begin to secrete hormones. Testes secrete testosterone and ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone, 2 hormones very essential for normal reproductive health of a female. Menstruation is another physiological change and it is important to talk about it at this juncture. In human females, reproductive phase begins at puberty and lasts till the age of 45 to 50 years when she attains menopause. A girl is born with fixed number of ova, however, these begin to mature only at puberty. One ovum matures at a time and is released from ovary once in 28 to 30 days. This happens under the influence of anterior pituitary hormone called follicle stimulating hormone or FSH. Egg travels down the oviduct to reach the uterus. At the same time, the walls of the uterus, under the influence of luteinizing hormone from anterior pituitary, thickens to receive the fertilized egg. If there is no fertilization, the thickened lining of uterus along with the blood vessels that develop with it are shed off and cause bleeding. This is called menstruation and is also known as period. This is a diagrammatic representation of menstrual cycle of 28 days. The upper grey color diagram depicts the changes in the uterine lining called the endometrium, and the lower set of diagrams are just a schematic representation of changes that the ovary is going through during these 28 days. Observe day 1 or the first phase, it is slushing off or the removal of the endometrial lining, we call it as a period, and observe the ovary, it has no ovum yet developing. Stage 2 or day 4 initiates next egg's development under the influence of FSH and observe the changes in the endometrium. It has started regrowing under the influence of hormones. Stage 3 depicts release of the ovum from the ovary. Observe the lower diagram. The egg is released and is in the fallopian tube, and it is shown here if there is fertilization, it will be embedded in the uterine lining of endometrium. Stage 4 depicts if there is no fertilization, all this entire internal endometrial lining along with the blood vessels will be removed once again to repeat the cycle. This is menstrual cycle. Friends, menstrual cycle is normal, and in human females it usually lasts for 4 to 5 days, which is very normal. Sometimes in some ladies it may be for 21 days or it may go up to 35 days. Periods usually last only for 4 days. Many adolescent girls have irregular and painful periods that settle down as girls grow up. Exercise may help to prevent the pain. If problem persists, a medical doctor should be consulted. Menstruation is not an illness. If the girl feels comfortable, she could do anything that she wants. Girls use different types of sanitary towels, etc., to absorb the blood during this period. It is important to change these frequently for hygienic reasons. There is a question for you. I hope you will be able to answer why menstruation temporarily stops during pregnancy. At the end of the lesson, you will get the answer, I am sure, friends. We come to the psychological changes. Mental, emotional and intellectual maturity develops gradually. Adolescents are capable of abstract thinking. They experience mood swings. They become self-conscious. The self-image and identity becomes very important. Same time, friendship is very important to them. They start getting interested in one another in a sexual way. Opinion expressed by peer that are different from their personal beliefs could be a source of stress and anxiety, as it is important for them to fit in with the group norm. We call this as a peer group effect. Here in a summary is what the adolescent or the teenagers go through. The energy level is high. It is very important to follow this in a little remark here. Adolescents should enjoy this phase of life, but also invest in their future, as it is important to strike a balance. Adolescents need to exhibit responsible sexual behavior during this phase. Their decision regarding relationship, sex and sexuality should be based on appropriate information and understanding of consequences and sense of responsibility. Observe menstrual hygiene. We move on to the reproduction in humans. Here on your screen is the male reproductive part depicted. Observe the different parts. Functions of these different parts are listed in your next slide. Go through them very carefully. First is a pair of testes. We have mentioned about testes as a source of testosterone in males, but it primarily the organ for generating or developing the male gametes called the sperms. Then there are two sperm ducts or vasa efferentia that carry the sperms produced by the testis, and they arise from the testis and pass up into the body to join together as to the ejaculatory duct. Then there is one single ejaculatory duct. It is a common duct for the passage of urine and sperm. Then lastly is the penis. This is a muscular organ which helps to transfer sperms into the female body. Testis lies outside the body within the scrotal sac. This ensures the temperature at which the sperms are being produced is 2 degrees less than the body temperature, as is required for sperms to stay alive. Here is a second question, friends, for you. Do all mammals have their testes in the scrotal sacs all round the year? Observe it. I hope you have enjoyed today's lesson. Thank you.